Hey, what's good, everybody? This is Woodrow, 11 O'Clock Comics, coming at you with our monthly look through the main previews catalog. As always, this is a longer video. There are a lot of pages to cover, but we will go through, as we always do, pointing out things that pique my interest or I think would at least be worth your attention. So, see on the cover, we've got Darkwing Duck, which Dynamite is bringing back, which could be cool. I know my co-host Vince is probably very excited for that because he is a fan of all things duck. So we're gonna pop open to the image section. One thing you may notice, I certainly noticed it immediately, Image, after years of having the exact same interior previews trade dress, has completely changed up the way they solicit. They're now overlaying like imagery from the comic they're soliciting on the back. It almost doesn't look like image previews at all, but it is. They've changed the font, they've changed everything. But I'm here for it. Why not? Very excited by this. This is Kelly Thompson, who I think has been doing excellent work at Marvel for well north of a decade, and has been on our podcast before. She is doing her first, or at least to my mind, her first image book called Black Cloak #1 with art by Meredith McLaren. I generally try all Image #1s, but certainly this one in particular has me excited because of Kelly. So, and they give you some preview images, as they often do. Now, this book is one that I think will be at or near the top of early 2023 books that people are excited for across the industry. That is Immortal Sergeant. It is a 9-issue limited series written by Joe Kelly with art by Ken Nomura. If those names don't mean anything to you, maybe this book won't be as important to you as it will be for many of us. But certainly, if you hear Kelly and Nomura, what should first come to mind is the incomparably excellent miniseries I Kill Giants that came out quite a while ago, that they did together and is at or near the top of many people's all-time favorite miniseries. Just so much heart in that book. And so having them team up after all these years, again, with a new character and a new story is very exciting, to say the least. So Immortal Sergeant is definitely going to be a hot button of conversation in a few months when it hits our inboxes. We've got another Spawn series. I will say it's cool that Mike Del Mundo, who I think is incredible, is drawing it. I'm not enough of a Spawn fan to jump in, but I think for Spawn fans, this is probably one of the more exciting things that's come about in a while. We've got Inferno Girl Red, book 1 of 3, book 1, #1 of 3. Matt Groom writing with art by Erica Durso and Igor Monti. I just came to know Erica Durso's work because of she's now repped by Cadence Comic Art, which are an art rep group that I'm very close with. And so they turned me on to Erica's work, and it's beautiful, as you can see here. So I am intrigued by this miniseries. It's a new school, new relationship, new possibilities for any teenager. Big moves are both challenging and exciting, but it's a whole other thing for Cassia Costa because an ancient cult and their army of demons has ripped her new home of Apex City out of our universe and into darkness. So high fantasy, art looks incredible. So yeah, definitely gonna give this a try. We've got a hardcover here called Stringer. It looks like a crime noir book centered around tennis. Shout out to longtime listener of the podcast and friend of the show, Cliff Lewis, good buddy of mine. I'm sure he'll be excited for this as a tennis pro, but not sure I'm going there. Looks like they are bringing, much like they've been doing the Walking Dead reprints, they're going to be reprinting Invincible, it looks like. If for some reason you never read Invincible, it is worth your attention. Magic Order, Volume 4, #1 of 6. As always, written by Mark Miller. This time art by DK Ruan. DK is incredible, and he has DK had been doing jaw-dropping commissions for a bunch of years. Finally, publishers took notice, started putting him on some covers, and he took off there, and then has been transitioning to interiors the last year or two. And he is really, if you saw his first interiors to what he's doing now, it's just like night and day. And I'm excited for him to be joining an absolute murderer's row of artists who have worked on the Magic Order with Mark so far. Another issue of Monstrous continues to be one of the best series out there. Now, I've read most of Miller's stuff. I don't think, at least I don't recall reading Nemesis, the last miniseries that he did. So I would need to read that before deciding to jump into this, which is a sequel called Nemesis Reloaded. But I will point out that Jorge Jimenez is jumping from his seemingly nonstop work at DC to do a creator-owned book. And he's an incredible penciler as well. So that is intriguing. Saga, I don't think I need to tell any of you about Saga. It is one of the best books of its generation, full stop. Above Snakes, Vince and I discussed the first issue of this when it came out. It is a supernatural Western. We don't get enough Western comics. It is drawn by Hayden Sherman and written by Sean Lewis. So far, what I've read of it has been awesome so far. It's been compared to Deadwood meets The Sandman, which is definitely one hell of a pull quote. Anyway, if you weren't getting the issues, I do think this is a fun series that certainly is worth consideration. Super stoked for this one. We had Ryan Brown on the show to talk about 8 Billion Genies when it launched. This is volume 1. It's an absolute blockbuster hit. Ryan and Charles were just bombarded at New York Comic Con by people excited by this book. And I love that they're putting it out in a hardcover, which is totally my style. So I will be double dipping. I bought the issues in support of the book for Ryan, but I will be double dipping and getting the hardcover as well. Speaking of hardcovers, we've got Invincible Compendium. So for those of you that haven't read Invincible yet, like I was saying, here's a great way to do it. It's omnibus style, where you've got 1,024 pages of Invincible in one fell swoop. Great series. Haven't read Chip's Public Domain, so I can't speak to it. Haven't read Starhenge, cannot speak to that. We're going to just jump ahead here because I'm not reading that stuff. Bloodstained Teeth is wrapping up the first arc. It's been an entertaining yarn for sure. Patrick Reynolds on art. It's been really great with the bright neon colors and the 80s style throwback imagery. Bone Orchard, 10,000 Black Feathers, number 5 of 5. It's the finale of the Lemire Sorrentino horror miniseries. You all know I worship at the altar of Jeff and am generally a fan of all the things that he does, and this is no exception. Okay, let's keep just gonna go through these quickly since I'm not. I Hate Fairyland. Scotty's back, this time with Brett Bean doing the art instead of Scotty himself. The first issue I discussed on last week's episode. It felt like there was no time off. It felt like we were right back to where we left off with the original series. So kudos to them. Kaya number 4 by Wes Craig, his follow-up to Deadly Class. Philadelphia continues to be awesome. So I can recommend those two to you. Little Monsters, another Lemire book, this time with Dustin Nguyen. Another winner. Nita Hall's Nightmare blog. Okay, I think that wraps up Image, and then that's generally one of the meatier parts of this catalog walkthrough, just for those of you that are new to these videos. We're jumping into Boom. Not reading the Dune stuff, so we'll skip that. Mosley, number 1 of 5. It is a 5-issue limited series written by Rob Guillory, who most of you probably know for his art, mainly as the co-creator of Chew, and then he did Farmhand. But now he's taking a stab at writing, letting someone else draw the book. And most of you probably don't know the name Sam Lotfi, but being on the original art hustle that I am, I have a number of commissions from Sam. So I've known his commission work for a bunch of years. This will be the first time I've read an interior from him, but I'm excited to see it. So really excited that Sam is getting a chance to do a big book. House of Slaughter continues to be awesome. What more can be said about it? It's Tynan and Bromble with Deladera and Fuso. It's the companion book to Something is Killing the Children, which I would imagine, unless you're brand spanking new to comics, I don't need to tell you about that book. It is an absolute runaway freight train of a hit. This warms my heart. The Many Deaths of Layla Starr was one of the best miniseries of 2021. It won a bunch of awards, including our own 11 O'Clockers. We're getting a deluxe hardcover edition of this, written by Ram V with Philippe Andrade on art. If there were ever a Boom miniseries worthy of hardcover treatment, it is this one. Speaking of things worth your attention, Once Upon a Time at the End of the World is the miniseries by Jason Aaron. It is his return to creator-owned work. Long overdue, so I haven't read the issues yet, but the fact that it is in existence is, I've never read a Jason Aaron creator-owned book that wasn't awesome. And the art here by Alexandre Tefenki and Nick Dragata. I don't know Alexandre's artwork well, but Nick is a consummate star and also a buddy, but he's incredible. And we all had him on the show a few months ago talking about his last creator-owned book. So anytime he lends his mastery to another series, it's worth your attention. I would also note on page 107, The Approach, number 4 of 5. This is Jeremy Haun and Jason Hurley's horror book. Read the first issue. It was gripping. It's basically about a out of the way airport that place a bunch of planes have to land in because of really inclement weather, and things go awry in a very, very horrifying way. I'll put it that way. So got the Power Rangers and the Buffy stuff. I'm not reading it. All right, we're into the Dark Horse section. They had me at hello with this book, Spy Superb, number 1 of 3, written by Matt Kindt, drawn by Matt Kindt with colors by his wife Charlene. This is a new spy book. Matt has always done espionage well. It's one of his strongest suits. I think that basically this is him playing to his strengths, and I can't wait for it. I'm overjoyed that he's returning to this genre, which we've seen him do so many times before. With most notably probably Mind Management, but he has done espionage work many times at many different publishers. I think it is his happy place. And speaking of Matt Kindt, the Kindt love continues with this graphic novel called Mr. Mammoth, which is the first book in Kindt's new imprint called Flux House. This is a 128-page hardcover written by Matt with art by Jean-Denis Pendance. I don't know if I'm saying that last name right. I apologize if I'm getting it wrong. It's Pendanx. This is about a quirky detective. He is a 7-foot-tall, scar-ridden private investigator. But if it sounds weird, trust me, that's right up Kindt's alley. And I can't think of a Matt Kindt written book that I haven't enjoyed. So. There's probably not much else going on at Dark Horse that I'm going to be all over. So we're going to just kind of fly through it. Well, Black Hammer certainly is always a priority. We've got the World of Black Hammer Omnibus Trade. I have the hardcovers, which is my preferred form. But if you do not have the hardcovers, this trade is 408 pages. $29.99. It collects Sherlock Frankenstein and the Legion of Evil, and Dr. Andromeda and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows. 2 incredible miniseries, absolutely incredible. So certainly worth your attention if you're a trade person. Okay. We will just fly through these quickly. Like I said, not too much in Dark Horse for me this month beyond the stuff we already talked about. The cover book is Darkwing Duck at Dynamite. I don't generally read much Dynamite. No shade, just not stuff that grips me because I'm not too into licensed comics, generally speaking. I know some of our friends are over the moon that we have a Gargoyles comic. The cartoon never meant that much to me particularly, just because it didn't line up with my, like, I was a little too old for it. But for folks in like their early 40s or mid to late 30s, I would assume that this is a very exciting thing, that this is coming to comics. I know nothing of Purgatory, can't speak to it. You've got your obligatory Green Hornet, Vampirella, and Red Sonja comics, which they always put out. But as I said, I don't read much Dynamite. It's just not where my concentric circles align with my interests. So sorry for all the page turning here, but Dynamite's putting out a lot of stuff, and I'm not reading a lot of it. So Aftershock, another publisher who I don't read a ton of on the regular. Bulls of Beacon Hill #1 looks intriguing because Andy McDonald is doing the art. I'm a fan of Andy's work. But Steve Orlando as a writer is hit or miss for me. Great guy, consummate pro, but just if I'm being honest with you all, and why wouldn't I be, a lot of the stuff that Steve has written has not quite connected with me on a level that makes me want to revisit his work. So, not reading a lot of Aftershock. My co-hosts are big fans of Chicken Devils, Brian Bucalato's work. So, you know, they certainly would point you in that direction. Titan is often hit or miss. It just depends if they've got some cool European imports that they're bringing over or not in a given month. So they're doing this Tezuka. It's a prequel to Astro Boy called Adam. They're up to volume 4. I may check this out depending on what Vince says about the series. We shall see. Okay, so Ablaze. This looks great. Children of the Black Sun, #1. Dario Ciccio is the writer, artist Letizia Cadenici. Letizia was the first artist on the House of Slaughter series. I got to meet her at Heroes in Charlotte, and she's lovely, and her line is impeccable. Very much looks like Jay Lee to me, if you're looking for a comparable. And so I'm excited that she's taking a foray into create her own. This is a mature readers science fiction action adventure comic that there's a long interview both all about the book as well if you're interested in some interiors. So you certainly get plenty of peek into the book to help you decide if it's worth your attention. Okay. I'm going to walk through Blaze here. I think that was the only... now we've got the Frank Miller Presents, the new imprint by Frank. You've got Ronin, Book 2, Issue 2. That's a must-buy. Dan DiDio's got a book with Danilo Baruth. I think Danilo's a wonderfully talented cartoonist, but I don't know that the subject matter of Ancient Enemies or the writer in DiDio is a draw for me. And now we're into the back of the previews where you get all the smaller publishers who put out, just a couple things at most. And so this is, you're digging for gold here, right? You've got your Abstract Studios. Terry Moore's doing amazing work as always, but it just looks like he's putting out some collected editions that have already been in print, probably for the holidays, just trying to draw up some sales. Okay, you got Archie, the Archies in India. It's an intriguing idea. Definitely stands out as a unique niche, if you will. I probably won't be getting it. Probably won't make my budget cut, but it did pique my curiosity for sure. So yeah. Away Blue World always does really good stuff. Small husband and wife publishers that have a very sharp eye for niche comic stories. So AWA, still waiting for an AWA series to pull me in as a must-have. I've heard good things about some of their work, but just they haven't quite found the tractor beam to pull me into paying attention much yet. Boundless continues to dump the massive amounts of inventory they must have built up earlier in the decade when they were making that stuff. Clover Press, we've got, they've always got some pretty interesting reprints and archival stuff. I don't think I'm going to be getting Tom the Dancing Bug, but it could be something that Vince is into. And Terry and the Pirates, they continue to put out those. This is volume 4 of that. Drawn and Quarterly is generally going to have some good stuff. In this case, a lot of it is reprints of things I already have, like Kitaro and Library and Hot Comb. But I will draw your particular attention to Hot Comb if you didn't get it its first go around. That is a wonderful graphic novel about basically about the history of Black women in hair and the cultural significances and good, bad, and how much it's played a role in female Black culture. It's fascinating. It's very educational and informative. I would commend it to your attention. Fanta, the Chuckling What's It is a must. We lost Richard Sala, I think 2 years ago now, passed away. This is one of his, many consider it his greatest work, and it had been out of print. I have a bunch of Sala works, but I do not have this because I wasn't aware of him back then, and very excited that they are bringing back what, as I said, what most consider one of his best works. So I'll be picking that up for sure. And you've got your Love and Rocket stuff, which, you know, if you're curious, I would say it might be worth your attention, but they just pre-ordered a month or two back a complete Love and Rockets collection of hardcovers, which many of us ordered, and so that's probably going to be the preferred way that you want to read that stuff. And we've got some more things. A lot of these are resolicits of things that they've put out in the past. So, you know, I buy almost everything that Fantagraphics puts out, but I buy it when it's first solicited. So when they're doing months like this where it's mainly reprints, there's not much for me. But I would always say that anytime you're looking through previews, pay attention to the Fantagraphics stuff, because if you don't have a lot of it, almost everything that they put out is of the highest quality and worth your attention. Okay, we are in the H's now. And so far, it's been a relatively quiet back of the previews, but Humanoids always comes through to save the day. We've got Sapiens Imperium, written by Sam Timmel with Jorge Miguel on art. I am always looking for bande dessinée European graphic novels that are brought over and translated, and this is the latest. Humanoids is always one of the go-tos for that. Fascinating political threads inspired by real-life tragedy, stunning sci-fi epic full of action and intrigue. Look online for some of the art if you want for this one, and you'll be blown away. I'm very excited for this. It's been a while since Humanoids has had a graphic novel of this caliber. It's been a minute, so I'm glad to see them back. Hopefully it'll be the start of a new streak. Simac looks awesome too, but it is part of the Meta Barons world, and I'm woefully behind. I own a lot of Meta Barons comics, but owning a lot of it and having read a lot of it are two very different things. So I feel like this is something I'm not going to pre-order. And if I do ever get around to reading a bunch of the Meta Barons stuff, I will go ahead and jump onto this. On the flip side, Humanoids has Lugosi, The Rise and Fall of Hollywood's Dracula, which is written by Corin Shadmi and drawn by. Shadmi has done a number of autobiographical not autobiographical. He's done a number of biographical comics the last few years, and they've been awesome. I think most recently was The Twilight Man, which was a look at Rod Serling's life, and I found it gripping. So given the standard he set with Twilight Man, I'm all about him delving into Bela Lugosi's life. I don't know much about Lugosi, so it's going to be terrific. It's very sad to see IDW in the back here, but that is the new state of things. I don't know if it's permanent or not. And as is typical of IDW these days, they don't even give you cover art for a lot of their books. So sad, sad times in the world of IDW. Okay. Let's see. We're going to just continue apace. Magnetic. We've got the next in a long line now of Sergio Topi collections. I don't know what number this is. Oh, it's third book in the Gallery series, so there you go. But I think overall it's like the 8th or 9th Topi book they've put out. We've got Oni. They usually have a bunch of stuff. This could be cool, but I have to be honest with you, like the premise and the art by Dan McDade looks great, but then I look, it's 6x9, 72 pages, it's $22. That does not seem like a very good value to me, so I'm going to pass on it. I'm not into the Rick and Morty, but I know a lot of you are. They're relaunching with a new #1. I'm sure that is big doings for many of you. Okay. And we're coming toward the end here. We're in the Q and the R's alphabetically. Ballad of Halo Jones. It's an omniboo. This is Alan Moore and Kieran Gillen with Ian Gibson and Barbara sorry, I always get her name wrong. Barbara Nasenzo. There we go. They're calling this the ultimate edition of this feminine space opera. So I'm probably going to get this. I have some Halo Jones comics in the long boxes, but I don't have a collection, and a full color omnibus is certainly a good way to go, I think. Okay. Scout can often have good stuff. I don't think it's anything this month that I feel compelled to point out, though. Silver Sprocket. Pretty much anything Silver Sprocket puts out is worth your attention if you're into indie comics, alt comic stuff. It's much more challenging work that I think is extremely rewarding, but not the kind of thing that if you're mainly a mainstream superhero comic reader you're going to enjoy. But certainly if you tilt towards the other end of the spectrum, Silver Sprocket is a go-to. We've got Source Point, a new comic by Cullen Bunn called Nightwalkers. Cullen seems to be good for 1 or 2 horror comics a month at different publishers, it seems. All right. Now we're getting to Valiant, which usually signals we're near the end of the book. We do have something to shout out. Vault. Barbaric is Vault's breakout series for sure, written by Michael Morecci with art by Nathan Gooden. Nathan, another friend of the show. We were all big fans of Barbaric, the initial miniseries, and now we're getting a new miniseries called Hell to Pay, #1. It's gory and bloody, and it is it is everything that if you're a fan of like the Mignolaverse or things like Conan, this is a book you'll enjoy. And Nathan Gooden's art is impeccable. It is definitely well above what you might think from a smaller publisher. Like if you have a stigma against trying work from smaller press publishers because you're unsure of the quality of the artist, I can assure you that Nathan Gooden is as good as anybody drawing anywhere. All right, we've got Whatnot. Whatnot is the, I think, fairly popular online retailing app that's taking over the world. A lot of people are selling comics and variant covers and art on the app, as well as like other collectibles. I'm an old head, so I'm not really on the app, but I hear a lot about it. They've been putting out their own comics of late. This I'm just bringing your attention to because it's written by Wesley Snipes. So probably terrible, honestly, but it did. I was like, okay, it says 7 meets Blade Runner. Yeah, like I said, it's probably terrible, but hey, maybe this is Wes's next big arc of his career as a comic writer. Who knows? Ninja Funk. The main draw here for me is that it's drawn by Alex Riegel, longtime friend of the show, terrific artist. So I'm really happy for him. I think the first issue sold over 100,000 copies because of the strength of Whatnot and its community. So hopefully it's a big hit for them. Zenescope was always an easy pass. Nothing ever compelling there. And that's it. And then we're into the manga section, and I'm not much of a manga reader. That's not really true. I mean, I do read a bunch of manga, but I generally let others who I think are more voracious manga readers turn me on to things. So I'm not someone, I wouldn't consider myself a manga taste maker. I'm more of like a let my manga buddies tell me when something is the hotness, and then I jump on it. So, but there's always good stuff in there for sure. I'm just not the person to put you on that stuff, I think, generally. So, all right, well, there you have it. That's a walk through the main previews catalog. We'll be back next month. For those of you that are new to this is the kind of thing we do every month, generally earlier in the month, but we got it out kind of mid-month this month just because of scheduling. In any event, if there's anything that you think I didn't mention in my walkthrough that is a must-read or worthy of my or other comic fans' attention, let us know. You can, of course, find us on Facebook at 11 O'Clock Comics. You can find us on our Patreon at patreon.com/11 O'Clock Comics. And for those that really want to have an engaging, energetic, vibrant community to talk about comics and life and everything, but not have to deal with the nonsense of the broader social media world, you can join our Patreon tier that allows you access to our Slack channel, where we have about 150 very active, engaged comic fans and friends who just talk about anything of interest on a daily basis. And it's really my favorite online community these days. And generally speaking, I think, I don't want to speak for others, but I think if we were to take a poll, most of the people that are members of the Slack would say it's one of their favorite places online, full stop, not just about comics, but just about everything. So consider giving that a try. If not, we will hopefully see you in the comments of the podcast, which, again, 11 O'Clock Comics, you can find it everywhere. We do 6 episodes a month, so always consistent quality content in your ear holes whenever you're ready for us. So take care, and I will speak to you all next month.